Well, the Chiefs get a win, the Royals get a win, and tomorrow, I believe that Jackson County, Missouri is going to get its own win. Good morning. It is great to be here on a Monday, 6:05 on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. That's right. Tomorrow is recall day of County Executive Frank White. And he's making the media rounds because he knows that he is in a lot of trouble. He understands this county is fed up with his lack of leadership. This county is fed up with the property assessment debacle, and this county just wants to start functioning again. And right now, the only card that is being played by the county executive, well, I guess there's two of those cards being played, is one, it's everybody else's fault, and two, this is all about the stadiums. And I'm looking at him live right now. It's early morning hours, and he is doing an interview on Fox 4. Hey, Frank, I'm here for you. Frank, I texted you yesterday. You didn't respond. Come on. What should I do? Should I text him on the air? What's going on here?
You mustard moo.
Jeez. I literally sent the guy a nice note yesterday inviting him on the air today before the recall tomorrow, and he never got back to me. And I see him right now. It looks like it's the middle of the night. He's doing an interview downtown somewhere on Fox 4. All right, don't be dodging too many bullets down there, fellas. It's still kind of early, okay? He's with Marcus Officer, Fox 4 right now. Go figure. Well, I get why he doesn't want to do an interview here, because the things I'm seeing Frank White say ahead of this recall tomorrow, not helping his cause. Frank White, headline here in the Kansas City Star. In his last push before recall vote, Frank White says his replacements would be worse. Oh, boy, that's compelling. You guys don't like me. Just imagine how bad it could be. Now, we don't even know who his replacements are going to be. It could be somebody on the legislature, but if the legislature can't agree on someone, it would be somebody outside of the legislature, and it's highly likely we end up with a judge picking somebody as the temporary Jackson County executive until next year when there's a 2026 election. But here's where I think most Jackson County residents are at right now. For the next 12 months, could it really be worse? Is it actually possible for it to get any worse than Frank White? I mean, you can tell me at 913-408-7957. That's our text line and our studio line here on KCMO. But that is a heck of a pitch from Frank White. Hey, this could be a lot worse. Like who? Like what? I don't know, but it could be worse. You just wait. Yeah, you know what? I'll roll the dice on that one, Frank. Okay? I got a year to get through till an election. I suppose maybe it could be. Like, I suppose we could end up with a brain-dead frog. Like, that's entirely possible. But even the brain-dead frog, he might sign a bill or two or at least show up to the meetings. Frank has been the one this year. One meeting this year. It's unbelievable. So now we sit here and we wait. And I know that some of you have probably voted early. Others are just chomping at the bit to get to tomorrow. Maybe you're making a little celebration out of it. Maybe you're going to be taking off of work early, taking that long lunch break, going in before. But either way, I mean, it is going to be, I believe, a landslide tomorrow for Frank White when that recall vote happens. But I just don't know what the Frank White constituency is anymore. I don't know. So we'll have to wait and see. But that is coming tomorrow. I can't believe it. We've been talking about this now for the better part of a year. And now we're here and we're having the conversation ahead of tomorrow. It's unbelievable. And I am fascinated to see how it plays out. 913-408-7957. And the other thing this will do is it will make it so we get, I believe, some answers on the Chiefs and on the Royals. These two teams are waiting to see what happens tomorrow. If Frank is ousted, Jackson County's back on the table. Whether it's Washington Square Park for the Royals or somewhere else downtown. And for the Chiefs, I've always believed that Jackson County and Arrowhead Stadium remains option number one. And I think that only solidifies tomorrow if and when Frank White gets recalled.
You're talking about it. I'm excited. One shopping day left. Now, I can tell you, if you don't get your packages in the mail, they may not get to your destination on time at this point. So you may want to think about delivering those. But one shopping day left, and some of the specials are out there to be had.
That's right. That's right, John. Do we have names for these specials, by the way? Are we calling these specials anything in particular?
We'll have to work on that. Recall something. Something recall. Yeah.
Well, work on that. We got 3.5, 4 hours to go here on the show. We'll think of something good. In the meantime, you have Mike Kehoe yesterday on a Sunday that ends Major League Baseball season. That is a Chiefs Sunday as well, taking on the Ravens. Mike Kehoe signed House Bill 1, which is the Missouri First Redrawn Congressional Map. He signed it yesterday afternoon. I assume Mike Kehoe, as a good Chiefs fan, signed it before kickoff of the game. But he signed that yesterday, which now moves Clay County residents and Platte County residents all back into the district of Sam Graves. So congratulations to those of you up in the Northland. You are out of Emmanuel Cleaver's district. Some of you in Clay and Platte were in Emmanuel Cleaver's district. But now all of you are back into Sam Graves' district. Jackson County has been split in half. The top half of the county, the north half of the county, into Lafayette, Johnson, Pettis, Saline, all the way out to mid-Missouri, is now in Emmanuel Cleaver's district for now. And the southern half of Jackson County, down into Cass and then going out towards Camden County, is in the district of Mark Alford, which many of you are already in. But what this does is obviously set up a 5th congressional district that has been Emmanuel Cleaver's for the better part of 2 decades. It sets it up as a red-leaning district, which means it's only a matter of time before we get many Republicans who are looking at that 5th district, northern half of Jackson, Lafayette, Johnson County, Missouri, all the way out east from there. It sets up a district that is very winnable for Republicans. And with 8 congressional districts in the state of Missouri, what this does is set up a 7-1 map. That means 7 Republicans likely to come out of Missouri and go to Washington, D.C., and 1 Democrat that will be coming out of St. Louis. We'll see what Emmanuel Cleaver decides to do. There will be lawsuits and challenges against this, what is dubbed the Missouri First map. These things will have to move quickly through the courts because come, early next year, you've got filing deadlines, you got people launching campaigns, and yes, maybe Quentin Lucas does decide, you know what, I'm running against Mark Alford. I would say 60-40 Quentin Lucas does it. That's my bet right now. 60-40 Quentin Lucas decides he's going to run for Congress. And the betting odds would be he would lose, but you know what? He would be taking one for the team, and it would be good publicity for him. It would get him temporarily out of the mayor's office, get him on the streets, get him campaigning, which actually I think he does in large part like more than the day-to-day grind of actually doing the political work. Not saying he doesn't like it, but I think he actually loves the politicking and the campaigning. I think what comes from that is something he kind of deals with and, has some appreciation for, but I think he loves kissing the babies and rubbing the elbows and shaking the hands. And I wouldn't be shocked if that announcement comes early next year after these lawsuits get figured out, after Mike Kehoe officially signs the new congressional map yesterday afternoon. It is a busy news week here in Kansas City and across the country. We've got potentially a government shutdown on the horizon this week, so there's a lot that we are going to be covering on 95.7 FM. Make sure you set that preset right now on the radio dial. So yesterday, Chiefs played, and there were 2 off-field storylines that got a lot of attention. Nothing on the field. Off-field drama that I want to get to and ask you about coming up on KCMO 95.7 FM. I got to give Chris Jones a lot of credit. Dude's rolling off the plane at like 2:45 yesterday for a 3:25 game. Of course, the Chiefs beat the Ravens convincingly yesterday afternoon, get back to 2-2 on the season. And before you know it, he's on the field for the first play. I mean, did he even stretch yesterday? Does anyone know? Did he do like a hamstring stretch, like what I do with the girls, first and second grade soccer? You stretch the arm out, you do a quadricep or 2. Like, did he even do that? Or did he just get changed and show up on the field and then start playing professional football?
I think he did a jog out of the tunnel, and that was about it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he had dress shoes on in that first play. Yeah, he did come sliding in there at the last minute.
What would have happened if you did that, John? No warm-up, no stretch. You go out there. Goodness gracious.
Remember the Bugs Bunny cartoons with the Roadrunner where Wile E. Coyote hits the ground and he's just flat and then stands up. It's like an accordion going, wah, wah, wah. That'd be me.
I mean, I'm only a few years older than Chris Jones, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I could pull that off right now. Just showing up, getting changed out of your suit, and then going up and facing 330-pound men trying to get by him to sack Lamar Jackson. So, I was talking to Mark here during the break because I missed probably the first half of the first quarter because the Ryder Cup, and I know some of you mock me all you want, I was there on Friday. That's why I was not here. Thank you to Paul Gallant for filling in. My father and I went to the Ryder Cup. It was something we've been talking about doing for years. So we were there on Friday. So Team USA was getting its butt kicked Friday and Saturday, but they had this incredible comeback yesterday that made it very compelling. Team Europe still won the event, but for about an hour there, it was looking like Team USA might actually pull off the impossible. So I was watching that for probably the first half a quarter to a quarter of the Chiefs game, and I'm following the Chris Jones stuff on social media, and I'm like, dang, this guy is literally getting off a plane, getting in a car, showing up at the stadium 20 minutes before kickoff, and he's playing the first 2 snaps of the game. That was incredible. And he missed this because his aunt had passed away. So he was at a funeral for his aunt down in Mississippi. He got a plane back to Kansas City, of course, for yesterday afternoon. And I totally respect the man going home, taking care of his family, being there for the funeral of his aunt. It's what he was supposed to do. And even if he missed the game, I would not have knocked Chris Jones. Because just like we talked about last week with the Cubs player Matt Shaw, who missed a baseball game because of Charlie Kirk's memorial. He's a Chicago Cubs player who was friends with Charlie and missed a game against the Mets last weekend to go to the funeral service. I have all the respect in the world for anybody who humanizes themselves. And that yesterday for Chris Jones, who's 6'5", 330 pounds, there's very little about him that is like anything any of us can relate to. But the man missing warm-ups, hook sliding in for a huge game after the funeral for his aunt is once again something incredibly admirable for a guy who should be getting, I believe, when you look back on this run for the Chiefs, way more attention and, frankly, more respect than most people outside of Kansas City give him. This team has been a defense-first team the last 2.5 seasons or so, and it's because of Chris Jones up front that Steve Spagnuolo can make a lot of the calls that he ultimately ends up making with this defense on the blitzes and things of that nature. And you saw that confuse the heck out of Lamar Jackson yesterday. And it's because Chris Jones came back, got on that field when he showed up at the stadium 20 minutes before kickoff. Just absolutely tremendous. But the other thing I noticed yesterday, or didn't notice yesterday, was Taylor Swift. Like I said, I missed the first half a quarter, but I didn't see Taylor Swift the entire broadcast. Did I miss that? Did anybody else see her? I didn't see her anywhere, guys.
Yeah, they do that deal where they come to the games later now, and since the Chiefs aren't the first broadcast, there's less fluff time, I think, in between the games. So I didn't see. I was wondering myself. I didn't pay real close attention, but I saw nothing.
I didn't see
reference.
her. Mark, did you see her at all yesterday or any references of Taylor Swift yesterday?
No, I just knew she was at Selena Gomez's wedding on Saturday. That's all I know.
I saw that too. She was at Selena Gomez's wedding on Saturday, and then she was at the stadium yesterday. I mean, I'm seeing this from TMZ, People.com. They all say that she was there, but she was never mentioned. You never saw her celebrate. I know, Kelsey had a couple of catches that would have been perfect times to pan to her, and it never happened, John.
Well, we wore it all out last year. Plus, she's not on tour. Well, maybe selling the album, so maybe the next game.
Well,
the album drops here, hadn't it?
That's where the conspiracy theorists go on this. Okay, so the conspiracy theorists are of the belief that it could be one of couple of things. First off, she's got the new album, The Life of a Showgirl, dropping on October 3rd. So that's coming up on Friday. All right, Friday. Don't miss work on Friday, fellas, and tell me that you got a doctor's appointment, okay? Because you're standing in line for the new Taylor Swift album. We're going to have a problem. I mean, listen, I'm okay with Taylor. We're cool. I like her. But you guys can't miss work for the Taylor Swift album. I can't have that.
Dude, I got to get the marble-colored vinyl. Come on, man.
We're listening to it after the show.
Okay. All right. I'll allow that, Mark. That's fine. So there's some theory that it's around the new album dropping on Friday and that, she does not want to be seen before the album drop. But what about two other possibilities? And I think one is highly likely as well. Is it security driven or is it baby bump? If you're not going to show yourself and not give any answers, people are going to come to their own conclusions. Now, I happen to believe it's probably security based right now, and I can respect that. I'm not going to sit here and say that Taylor Swift owes us an on-screen cameo, especially when half of you are screaming, I don't want to see Taylor Swift on my football fun television. I don't want to see that. So some of you I know are very happy. But I don't think the NFL wants to stop showing Taylor Swift. I believe that she has requested that the NFL broadcasts stop showing her. And there's a reason for that. Maybe it's tied to the album. But I also happen to believe it's more so tied to likely security. And in a day and age when, we all know security right now is something that a lot of people have to be thinking about. I'm not going to hate on her for that. I'm not going to blame her for that. I will totally respect somebody taking those precautions right now, given the climate that we find ourselves in. So, and I know for some of you, you're like, this is great. I don't have to see Taylor anymore. Because you were really bothered by a girlfriend of a player cheering on her boyfriend, now fiance. I know, that upsets some of you. Coming up on KCMO, speaking of security, we are learning more over the weekend about Charlie Kirk's security and what exactly happened nearly 3 weeks ago in Utah. We have some of those answers. We'll share them with you. They got overlooked over the last couple of days. Next on KCMO. In the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination, we're almost at the 3-week mark. And I've talked to so many folks in law enforcement who just have so many questions. They've said to me, rightfully so, Pete, I don't understand how Charlie's security team allows him to be in that situation. That's the biggest thing I have heard from folks in law enforcement who I've been wanting to hear from over the last 2.5 weeks, because there are things that obviously they think about that those of us who have not done what they do for a living just don't. And, it's sitting in a courtyard where you've got all these tall buildings around you, and you're there as a sitting duck. And did they want him to have bulletproof glass? Did he say no? All these different things that we don't have the answers to. But we got some answers over the weekend in a Turning Point USA podcast that was released, where one of the co-founders of Turning Point USA, Tyler Bauer, sat down and talked about how security worked at Charlie Kirk events. And here's part of what he had to say, and now it's starting to make some more sense. We're starting to be able to put the pieces of the puzzle together to figure out how Charlie ended up in this vulnerable situation.
Every single event that's held is a combination of our security team working with the local police. In this case, on university campuses, it's the university police. The university police department is responsible. There's a line that is drawn, right, where there's personal protection for Charlie versus protection for the campus in this case, or if it's out in, the world, the city or whatever, right? In this case, for Utah Valley University, their responsibility was to protect the campus, all of the perimeter, rooftops, everything else. When we go out in public, our team handles those things where there isn't a police department to work with or do that with. So whether it's a drone program or covering all those angles or perimeter, they do all that. But when you're having to work with partners who are responsible for those elements, you're depending on them. There's some elements here where it's like there are people asking, well, why wasn't this that? Well, that wasn't Charlie's team would have done anything and everything, particularly if it was completely within our purview. And they did an incredible and impeccable job at all times, always covering Charlie. I mean, they were the first people that were trying to save Charlie's life when he was assassinated, and doing all of that. They love that man inside and out, right?
Yeah.
And they would do the same, not just for Charlie, but for anyone on our team. And they would take a bullet, jump in front of a car, do anything that they possibly could. And so we're praying for them. We hope that everybody is praying for them because they're being unfairly targeted by people who online who are making suggestions, like really wild, crazy suggestions that are not even possibly remotely true.
That is Turning Point USA co-founder Tyler Bowyer over the weekend in a podcast talking about how basically Charlie's security was in charge of Charlie, and then you had university police who were in charge of basically making sure the campus was safe, which would include theoretically any rooftops. Now, I was looking over the weekend. I was like, man, university police, are we just talking about some guy with his pants around his ankles walking around with a cell phone and, maybe a taser or something? Or are we talking about, like the guys you see on the plaza? Or are we talking about real cops here? Well, I looked it up, and university police are sworn law enforcement officers. They work for a college or university, and they have oftentimes the same training and authority as municipal police, and they can make arrests and carry firearms. So if you've got the folks at Utah Valley University with their campus police overseeing an operation like this with thousands of people in that courtyard, with rooftops all over the place, and you guys, first off, didn't really have any presence. It's one of the things that was immediately talked about after the fact. The lack of law enforcement presence there beyond Charlie Kirk's own security was abysmal. And then you're allowing guys to walk up and shooters to walk up to rooftops, knowing full well the threat that you've got potentially sitting there in that courtyard. Now, we will get more of these answers over time, I'm sure. But this looks like a total dereliction of duty by university police there at the University of the Utah Valley. I mean, that is just an embarrassment when you look at what that scene was. And everyone I've talked to in law enforcement says, Pete, the first thing that you do in a situation like that is make sure those rooftops are clear. You talk to folks who have worked with KCPD, when you've had dignitaries and presidents come to town, they will absolutely have those rooftops covered every single time. That's one of the first things that you do is get on rooftops in situations like that. And at Utah Valley University, apparently, that wasn't done. Not only was it not done, you could get up to those rooftops. They didn't even lock them down, lock them off. There was none of that. So that answered at least one part of the equation for me, because it's something I have been thinking about for the last 2.5 weeks. How do we get to this point? Not that we want to cast blame, but we want to get answers to how stuff like this actually ends up happening. The situation in Dallas from last week, the tragic situation where you had a couple of ICE members targeted and detainees ending up getting hit, that's different because you're not preparing for that necessarily, right? But the Charlie Kirk event, I mean, you've got weeks to prepare for that. And clearly the people in charge didn't do their jobs. And it resulted in a young man, a young father, and a young husband getting assassinated. And then last night I was just rolling through social media, and I saw this clip between Charlie Kirk and Bill Maher. They did a podcast together a couple of months back. And when they first interacted with each other, Charlie says, "Thanks for having us." And Bill's like, "What do you mean us? It's you, it's me." And Charlie says, "Well, I've got security." And listen to Bill Maher seem genuinely surprised and taken aback that Charlie Kirk has security.
Here. Kirk, reporting for duty.
That's what they call me.
How are you?
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having us.
Us?
Well, pardon me.
Is there someone with you?
Thanks for having me.
You're not expecting trouble, are you?
Not quite.
You travel with security?
Unfortunately.
You do?
Yeah.
Wow. Like what kind?
Security.
Like bodyguard?
You can hear it. Bill Maher goes from joking about it to being like, wait, really? You travel with security? What kind? Like, Bill's suddenly serious and fascinated by it, John.
I know, like, what did he expect? With bodyguards, he said. I'm like, what do you think he was going to say? Dogs? Cats?
Yeah. Canines?
Got a couple of Chihuahuas and a German Shepherd, St. Bernard if things go south.
Yeah. No, that's where you saw Bill's face, and you could hear it there in his voice inflection. He did a total about face. He was kind of like laughing. Oh, come on, you got security? Oh, wait, you do? Oh, like real security? Oh, like what kind? And it's because Bill Maher doesn't have to think about that. Charlie Kirk wasn't rolling around with security because he wanted to look like a tough guy. Okay?
Yeah, not a posse like the Vegas Cruise.
No, It wasn't for show. It wasn't for image. Oh, look at me and the boys. You know, I got to have my security guys around. No, it was, I have to do this to protect my life. And sadly, even the security guys were not capable of doing it. But Bill Maher doing the total about face like, wait, you need security? Tells you all you need to know. And Bill Maher, listen, Bill Maher's a classic liberal. I will play some Bill Maher audio later in the show because he continues, to his credit, to call out his own side on some of the crazy. And God bless him for it. We need more people like him in this country right now, today. We really do. Just classic liberals who call out their own crazy. But Bill Maher seems taken aback by it. And it's like, Bill, yes, he had to do that because of the death threats. And let's be honest, okay? The violence that we have seen, sadly, in this country is by and large coming from one radicalized side of the political aisle. And that's why Charlie Kirk had to take those precautions. But even those precautions, as we tragically learned nearly 3 weeks ago, was not enough to save his life. Always a good job by Bill O'Reilly. 722. Welcome back on a Monday morning. Hope you had a great weekend, unless you had a wedding, in which case, shame on the groom. Too good of a sports weekend to book your wedding. My goodness, dude. Unbelievable. You can't be doing that, groom. You're in for a lifetime of pain, buddy, if you allowed a wedding to happen this past weekend.
$10 says it wasn't the groom's decision.
Yeah.
Sometimes, how much can you protest when you're the groom?
Sometimes, yeah, fair.
You know?
Sometimes you got to put your foot down, but... You know.
Well, you could try.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. So yesterday, thank goodness, I either missed this, didn't answer the door, but my local council person put a flyer on my door yesterday saying, sorry we missed you, but, vote for me. This is like a 7-8 term incumbent for city council where I live. And I don't know if this person actually rang the doorbell or if they didn't want to interrupt us during the Chiefs game, which good on you, because if you were to interrupt me yesterday while Team USA is making a comeback in the Ryder Cup and the Chiefs are getting underway, I won't vote for you. I don't care. I don't care if your platform is identical to what mine would be. You show up to someone's door in the middle of a Chiefs game, I mean, you should be taken off the ballot. There should be state law against doing something like that. As far as I'm concerned, don't do it. Just ridiculous. But I was thinking about it yesterday as I looked at this little pamphlet that my council person left off on my front door. And this person is a so-called Republican, so theoretically they would appeal to me. But I was thinking to myself, for the first time in my voting life, I'm going to take a very serious look at the Democrat in the race. And that's because, to me, the local issues in these municipalities are not about what you consider traditional Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal issues. If someone's going to get up there and say, you know what, our budget's out of control, we're screwing homeowners on our property taxes, and oh, by the way, we got to stop giving away the world to developers through tax incentives, I'll take a look at you. And when you actually go around these municipalities all over Kansas City, it doesn't always break down along the traditional red-blue lines that you might think it would when it comes to city races and city issues. Now, I might disagree with the person on the other side on the major national issues, but on this local stuff, we have seen so many Republicans acquiesce to basically whatever some developer wants to do with whatever incentives they want to get, rezoning, all these things that impact communities, oftentimes in negative ways. And they always frame it under the guise of, well, we give these incentives out to bring jobs and businesses to our communities, which help keep your taxes low. Yeah, good one. Because you're not doing that. Let's be clear. You ain't doing that, okay? You guys stink at keeping those taxes in check. They're going up easily 5 to 10% a year. It's really bad in Jackson County. Frank White could get recalled tomorrow because of it, but it's just as bad in Johnson County. And a lot of it is not just coming from the county, but coming from the city that you live in. That's certainly the case where I live. So it's like, I've got to drop, and we all should just drop the traditional R versus D thing on some of these local races and actually try to figure out what some of these people stand for and what their beliefs are when it comes to property taxes, how to keep them under control, rezoning, development, incentives, because those are the things that actually change your neighborhood, for better or for worse. And there's not enough of that being done in the Kansas City area. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I got to do more digging on the opponent. But the idea that I'm just going to sit there and blindly follow the person based on the letter next to their name on these local races, I'm just done with that based on the last few years, John.
It's a good call. I know that we're blue around here and we get all freaked out and start thinking of the extremes and the radicals. But, there are some old school Democrats still around here that, maybe speak some common sense when it comes to financial matters.
That's well said, except for when you said, I know we're blue around here, because that can mean a lot of things to a lot of people.
Some boys are blue, huh? I got to watch it.
I don't want anyone misinterpreting what the show is exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so many meanings there. I'm going to have to go back on that one.
It's okay. We'll let it
sir.
slide. But it was well said. You're right about that. So now Frank White, of course, on the ballot tomorrow. And I believe Frank is going to find himself in a lot of trouble. I think that Frank White is easily going to get recalled tomorrow. I know many of you are going to be anxiously waiting to get up and go to the polls, and I can't wait to hear from you on the early side. If you go to the polls tomorrow in the morning, they open up at, 7 o'clock, I believe it is, on the Missouri side of the state line. So make sure you call us afterwards, because I want to know. Listen, I don't think the lines are going to be out the door. It's not going to be like a presidential turnout. But I am curious to see how the turnout is with fewer polling locations as well around Jackson County. And if the turnout's pretty big, then that would spell disaster for Frank White going into recall day of the Jackson County executive. So I am fascinated to see how that plays out tomorrow. And I know for many of you, you have been waiting years for this moment, and tomorrow you get your chance. Well, we gave away the tickets, a few weeks back. Kansas was back in town on Friday night. I was wrapping up my day at the Ryder Cup. John was out at Kansas. Where were they playing again, John?
At a Desira Amphitheater.
Oh, very nice, very nice. So you're there. I know you happen to bump into some listeners as well. And listen, I like the hits. I like the music. But what stood out to you as you were at the show with your beautiful bride on Friday night?
People ask me if I've seen Kansas, and I have to say this century or last. So I saw him in 76 on Left Overture, and 77 at Kemper on Point of No Return. So my wife's going, I've never seen Kansas. And I was like, of course, I've seen them every other week here. Right. So the band comes out, and they play, and I'm looking. I'm going, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nope. No original members.
None.
That's the caveat with the Boomer bands. Featuring one or more original members. Each band that was there, Starship, 38 Special, and Kansas, had an original member there present. So Rich came out later on. He's one of the guitar players, so that made it like one person. Encore was great, though, because they brought back Dave Hope, the bass player, Kerry Livgren, the guitar player, Phil Ehart, the drummer, and Rich Williams was there anyway. Robbie Steinhardt has passed, and I'm not sure what Steve Walsh is up to exactly right now. So we had 4 of the 6 members there, and that's kind of the first time that's happened in a long time. Some of the guys are there at various shows across the U.S.
Did the four of them ever play together on Friday night, or no?
The last two songs, they played Hold On, I think it was. Hold On and Carry On Wayward Son that we opened with.
They did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so they had the four guys out there playing.
Where do they find the backups? Or the stand-ins, whatever you want to call them.
Well, and that's another thing. It's like when you see these bands, sometimes it's kind of a tribute band because there's no original member left, right?
That's what I'm saying.
But they were great players. They did the show, the lights, the whole there. Kansas music's fairly complex to play, and so they nailed it for sure.
Are you paying tribute band prices, or are you paying real prices to see Kansas?
Well, that's another plus. Some of the boomer bands come at a reasonable price. I mean, it's not like $100 to get in there to see three bands, you know. So it's a reasonable price. 38 Special was really good, too.
So all of these bands, Jefferson Starship, 38 Special, and Kansas, none of them had their full band together.
No, and it's been some time, right? Because these guys are old. It's health sometimes. Sometimes guys on his solo career do other things, you know. So that's the deal.
Wow. Okay.
So a lot of times when hey, don't you want to go see Kiss? I'm like, no, dude. I saw them when they were Kiss for $5.
Yeah.
So I always had that. So
okay.
No, so it was a great night, but
you're looking up at Kansas. They come on stage, lights go down.
Yeah.
They come back on, and you're like, all right, guy one, guy two, guy three, guy four.
Nobody. My wife said, I think to my wife, I said, you still haven't seen Kansas, right? Until the encore when we got four, and I said, now you've seen Kansas.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was great.
They open up, and you realize no one on the stage was actually in Kansas from the
I
original
kind of
band.
assumed that. I knew Rich was with the band, but I thought he kind of played half of the set, I guess.
Oh, man. That's pretty funny because when I saw my parents on Thursday, Friday going to the Ryder Cup.
They would have loved it.
Well, they would have, I'm sure. But they also said to me, and they're older than you, John, by a few years, but they said to me, it is weird. All these people that we grew up watching on TV and listening to music and everything else, like more of them are dying every single year. And, I obviously don't really have that experience at this point in my life, but I got to imagine that when things like that start happening or you start to go see bands and you realize none of the original members are there, it's kind of weird.
It's interesting because you really have to be a fan of the band and the repertoire because the guys that are in the band have been playing with them for 10, 15, 20 years, right? It's not like they're any slouches that we just hired, tonight.
Yeah.
So, if you're a fan of the band, some of them will get guys out. And it's really great to see guys like Mickey Thomas that sang for Starship and Elvin Bishop can still hit those notes. Some of them can't. If you heard a John Mellencamp concert recently, Jiminy, right? I mean,
oh, man, he's too busy.
I don't know why you pay for that.
Yeah.
That gets into the hundreds of dollars for that kind of a performance.
Well, besides the fact he's a total nut job, but you're right about that.
So, yeah.
Oh, gosh.
So Kansas nailed it. They were good. It made it's making the rounds on YouTube because it was a unique thing. It's a cool deal for Fox's 40th birthday in Kansas and 38 Specials. 50th, roughly.
That's great. And I'm glad that I wasn't there and then didn't come on the air and be like, Kansas was great on Friday, without knowing that none of the OGs were even in attendance. So go figure.
Well, and that's kind of a known commodity for those of us at this age.
Yeah, no, it's all good, man.
Yep.
But that's great. I love that line to your wife. You still haven't seen Kansas until the encore.
Until the encore.
Oh, gosh. Will Frank White get an encore? We'll find out tomorrow. What is the Jackson County executive saying ahead of his recall election tomorrow? It's a doozy. We'll tell you next. Cash is something that not a lot of Jackson Countyans have left over after the property tax fiascos of the last few years. And that may result in Frank White getting recalled tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow's election day to recall Jackson County Executive Frank White. And he's making the media rounds. Except for one place. That would be right here on KCMO. Didn't join us. I texted him yesterday. I said, hey, Frank, could you come on the show? We'll talk about the election. And I got nothing. I got crickets. It's a darn shame, but it is what it is. And that's because, I believe that Frank White will get recalled. I think that he should be recalled. I believe, if nothing else, even if you think he's done a halfway decent job, and I'm not quite sure how you come to that conclusion, the reality is he doesn't attend meetings. He doesn't do the job that you're paying him six figures to do, and that is be the county executive, be present, show up to work, and go to the meetings. He doesn't do that. He's been the one meeting this year. If there's anything you look at with Frank White and say, do I vote to recall him? Do I not vote to recall him? What do I do? The guy has been the one meeting this year. They meet on Mondays. The legislature's there. And in a recent interview with Fox 4, he sat down with John Holt. And John, to his credit, asked him about not showing up to any meetings. And listen to this lame excuse from Frank White.
Want to be there to hold them to task?
Well, John, I was a legislator myself at one point,
Right.
and we worked with the county executive. We met with the county executive. We talked about different programs, how we can work together and bring a program forward. I can't vote, and when I do attend these meetings with this particular legislature, then it becomes a political sideshow between the two legislators trying to make political points. I don't have a vote in these meetings, and when you try to interject yourself into the meetings, then they claim this is my time and so forth.
That's an 8th grade excuse from Frank White on why he doesn't go to meetings. They're mean to me, so I don't think grandstand. Bro, you ran for political office. What did you expect? You ran for county executive. You didn't think you'd be grandstanded on by your own legislature? They're not nice to me, so I'm just not going to go to work. My taxpayers are paying me to go to work, and I'm not going to go to work because people are mean to me? You want to talk about thin skin. I mean, you look it up in the dictionary, there's a big picture of Frank White. That is a pathetic excuse for why you don't go to meetings. And if nothing else, to me, that's reason enough to say, dude, you got elected to this office now twice, and you don't even do the basics. Well, I send my staff there, and, they catch me up. You're coaching baseball for an independent league franchise, and it's not a knock on the Monarchs, but for crying out loud, you're coaching first base for the Monarchs. You're tapping tushes down the first baseline. You're not even giving signs on stealing second base. That's up to the third base coach. You're not even doing that. You're whispering sweet nothings into the ears of independent league baseball players who are about as close to the major leagues as I am. And you can't show up to a county legislative meeting that you were elected to do, that you're getting paid 6 figures to do? And Frank's always the victim in this stuff. Never point the finger at him. He's always the victim here. Please, don't get on him. Nothing's his fault. And that's why I think Frank White is about to lose by a wide margin tomorrow on this recall election in Jackson County. The excuse making, the finger pointing, and the headline in the Kansas City Star today, was an absolute joke. And basically the headline read as follows here in the Kansas City Star. In a last push before recall vote, Frank White says his replacements would be worse. That's quite a pitch. Well, trust me, guys, it could be worse than me. Oh, boy.
He's a troubled guy.
That's your final pitch? It might be worse than you? I'll roll that dice. I'll take that chance, man. And I suppose it could be. Maybe we'll be sitting here in a few months longing for the days of the Frank White administration. But, somebody who shows up to the office, shows up to the meetings, shows a little bit of empathy and sympathy for homeowners who have gotten absolutely fleeced over the last few years on these assessments. And Frank has shown zero sympathy for these homeowners. None whatsoever. You don't have to take my word for it. This was him in the same Fox 4 interview with John Holt talking about that very thing.
I have to empathize with taxpayers. I do. And I think that for too long, I think Jackson County has done a poor job of assessing properties. That's been even before I got into my office.
Wow, that was really heartfelt, wasn't it? Yeah. I empathize. Yeah, but county's done a bad job long before I was here, bro. You've been there for almost 8 years. 8 years, and your message to taxpayers is basically,
You still poor, broke, busted, and disgusted.
Yep, that's it. Not quite as passionate as Pastor Funderburk here in Kansas City, but that's basically Frank White in a nutshell. That's it. That's his argument. And that interview that he did with John Holt on Fox 4, not that I needed another reason to sit there and be like, this guy's done, but I think he's totally fried come tomorrow. 913-408-7957 is how you join us on KCMO. Let's go to Raytown. Bill, good morning.
Hi, Pete. Hey, I was listening to your show this morning, and you had the congressman on and talking about Frank White. And I want to just say that I appreciate your comments on, the government is shutting down, and we're in a panic about it, or supposed to be. And as you question him, he said, hey, what'd you do in August? You got all these holidays in September. And he just came back with more excuses, and what do we need them for? I mean, it's almost like it's better when they're not working and not screwing things up.
Boy.
We see a different picture living in our public. We're just like, what a bunch of posers, not doing anything.
Listen, I think that the issues in Congress, thank you, Bill, are bipartisan in nature. And that's part of what Mark Alford and I were talking about yesterday, or earlier this hour. Earlier this hour. And with Frank White, you don't ask for much, right? The county really should not be top of mind for most residents. They actually don't do a lot when you think about it, right? They're not running your schools. They're not running your trash pickup. They're not really in charge of your police or your fire for the most part. They might be if you live in certain parts of the county. But, yeah, you really don't want to think about them. But Frank White has given you no choice over the last couple of years, led by the assessment debacle. And he's just kind of hiding behind this idea of, well, I'm just following state law. Sometimes in politics, even if there's not a ton that you can do, you got to play the game. You got to make it look like you're trying to do something to help your own people. And this issue in Jackson County has not been a red-blue issue. It's not like he's sticking it to Republican voters who don't like him. That's irrelevant as to what this issue is all about in Jackson County. And Frank White hasn't realized that, hasn't cared about that. And that's why tomorrow, I think the liberals, conservatives, Republicans, Democrats, independents all come together and say, we're done with this guy. It's over. And maybe it could be worse than Frank White, but you know what? I'll roll the dice, and we'll see what happens from there on out. The replacement will be selected by the Jackson County Legislature, and if they can't figure it out, and God knows they're going to have a hard time because they are totally clueless as well.
They don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Then it will go to a judge who will select the temporary Jackson County executive until the election next fall of 2026.